Byron Bay in the primary school, they're doing mathematics all on the machine. So what's 7 times 8, 9 times 7? It's unbelievable, but they're giving their power to a machine. So could you imagine in 20 years' time, if we did all our mathematics on a machine, what's going to happen to the brain? Because I believe the brain is like a mental muscle, and it's actually weak at the moment. So this speed math that I'm going to show you is allowing us to access the future answer at the speed of light. So the Indians were doing this example. 2,500 years ago, the Indians at the time of Buddha could look at a question like, what's 15 squared? What's 15 times 15? Just like that. No, almost like by mere intuition. Sense, and my complete passion is mathematics. So I just wanted to give you one 5-minute example on what's the future. The future in maths is doing it in our head. So if we said, what's 15 squared? The sutra means a thread. So when we had stitches, it's called a suture. Suture means you stitch it up with a thread. So if you were married to God, you put a thread around your waist because you were connected to the higher source. So this sutra, which means mystical formula, is called by one more. So when I square 15 squared, 25 squared, 35 squared, I already know that the future answer is something that ends in 25. So we know that 5 squared is 20. We know that every answer that's going to happen here, let's say you're an accountant, what's 25 squared? I need to know. So I know that every answer is going to be 5 squared, 5 squared. So there's the 25. I just need to know the first bit. So I look at the first digit, like 1, 2, and 3, and I say, I multiply the first digit by 1 by the next number. So 1 times 2 is 2. So 15 squared is 225 in 1 second. I didn't even multiply, I applied a pattern. And what we're going to talk about on the slide is the universal language of shape and pattern recognition. That's the right feminine brain. But right now we're doing the mental, we're doing the left brain, male, logical, we're analysing, but we're doing rapid mental calculation. So 25 squared is, I only look at the 2, I say what's 2, I say by 1 more, what's 2 times the next number? 2 times 3, so the answer is 6, and we know we tag on 25, done it. A split second, 0.5 of a second. So I can look at 35 squared and go 1225. I didn't even think. It becomes pure intuition. So 35 squared is I look at the 3, so 3 times 4 is 12, and I tag on the 25, done. So who can tell me at the speed of light, what's 45 squared? 20, 25, done. So you've just done, this is one of many amazing sutras. If ever I come back again, I'd love to do a whole presentation just on that. So now we know what speed maths is. 90, so this is an easy one. 90 squared is, oh, sorry, it should be 95 squared.
I thought before.
95 squared, that's easy because it's 9 times 10, 90, 25. So we're just calling it out, but this is a tricky one. So 12, when we got 125 squared, we put this slash in and go 12 times the next number. So you need to know what's 12 times 13. So the next lesson that subsequent to this is called the teen number. So the Indians could say 12 times 13, I raise the 2, I raise the 3. 2 to the 13, I cross add. 2 to the 13 is 15, I've got half my answer. 2 times 3 is 6, done. So the Indians would go, 125 is 15625. I don't even know what the answer is. I just said 15625. So this is how the Moroccans did their teen number. So 500 years ago, the Moroccans said, let's curl the finger. So 12, so we want to know what's 12 times 13. This is what I teach 10-year-olds. So how much is 12 more than 10? It's 2. And how much is 13? So I curl the 2 on the left hand, there's the 12. And I curl the 3. So 13 is the 3. By just looking at the curled fingers, I'm going to add them and multiply them, the 2 and the 3, that's it. So so 500 years ago, the Africans said, we start off with 100. I've got 2 and 3 curled. I've got the 2 and the 3 curled, they're 10 points, that's 50. And then the same 2 and 3, I go 2 times 3 is 6. So the answer is 100 plus 50 plus 6. And this has never been taught at schools. This all got taken out of our curriculum. So I realised that the mathematics that you and I learnt at school had a direct lineage to the time of Pythagoras, 2500 BC. And then Euclid wrote the 13 books on the elements. What happened was just 100 years ago, that whole ancestry of knowledge, someone in authority decided to pull out of the curriculum the speed maths, all the sacred magic squares, harmonic numbers. They took out all the stuff on prime numbers, the Fibonacci sequence, and the most important thing, the 5 Platonic solids. So the reason why everyone's shutting down is because our maths curriculum has become like factory style, spoon-fed, boring. So we only want to connect with people who are into sharing and who can give, because that's what these numbers represent, the ratio of 21 to 34. And that's how the internet was invented. It was a military device, the internet, so they could communicate on the warfield. But they didn't know how to send a big file into a small file, which is called perfect compression. So they used these numbers of the pine cone and the sunflower to be able to compress non-destructively, so that we can compress a big book down to a 10 megabyte and send it as an attachment, and the internet was born. And what does that represent? Complete global communication now. But the trap is we've got to be careful of technology, because we've got to always come back to the flower. We've always got to, if we lose our connection to nature, we become like Borgs or semi-conscious people. So there's a lot to cover through. So we have to give these geometries a name. Seed of life is 6 around the 1. Egg of life, this could be called the egg of life. It's the 8 cells. This has got to do with your memory. The 8 original cells, which is cubic. This is the atomic structure of quartz. This is what all your technology is based on. The centers of these 8 spheres that form a cube actually forms a star tetrahedron. So this is the quartz crystal. This is the symbol for all technology. So the funny thing is, we have the same connection. The biology is we were 8 cells, so we have to make a unification, a compromise between the growing technology versus the struggle with our biological roots, because our world is becoming denatured and artificial. So this is saying to remember the biology as we go into the high-tech world, because this is allowing us. I believe that all this computer is only validating what the ancient people already knew, because the computers, like say a micro tunneling microscope, when we go down into the world of the atom and we look at a virus and we go, oh my God, look at the shape of a virus. So this is a virus that's got 20 triangles. So this is one of the 5 Platonic solids. Yet thanks to the quartz, we were able to go into the microscopic world. So it's only validating that everything is based on geometry. Makes you wonder, why do they demonize the number 13? There's no 13th floor, because they want to put some fear around that which is sacred. If you rearrange the words of sacred, what do you get? If you move, scared. So by putting fear into this geometry, we can't access our DNA. We can't go into our own wormhole and access all the knowledge. Okay. So we're talking about the DNA molecule. So DNA has, there's something about DNA that it's based on 2 spirals, like the sunflower. There's one spiral going one way and another spiral going the other way. So one of the secrets of nature is called counter-rotating fields. So if you were to walk up the ladder of DNA, imagine this was like a spiral staircase. So I'm ascending up the staircase, and I decided to slice the information and look at the genetic material. What you get. So the slice of these books, by the way, have been out of print. They won't reprint these books, but these are gems. So the slice of DNA there's the pentagon and the hexagon, but what's joining these pentahexa relationships is a rectangle, and the rectangle happens to be a golden rectangle. So if that's 8, that's 13. So that that square bit of your hand, I'm a builder by choice, I've got strong square hands, but can you see the rectangle there? So when they invented the MasterCard, this plastic to get you off it, to create a cashless society, well, if we're going to make plastic, we've got to make sure that it ergonomically fits the perfect rectangle of your hand so you love to spend. So our MasterCard is a symbol of sacred geometry, and it happens to be the hydrogen bonds of DNA. So DNA is a golden ratioed rectangle surrounded by pentahexa molecules. And these books that I've got, they've all been out of print. You can't access this stuff. So DNA, we've got to get away from the flatland pentagon. So when I'm talking about DNA, it is pentagonal geometry, but the key is to visualize every pentagon in that staircase that I was going up. Can you visualize that this dodecahedron, if I had 10 of these, I got one here and I stuck it on there and then I stuck another one, it's going to naturally do a little twist, and that creates the waveguide for the helix. So those helix of DNA aren't invented, they're following the natural twist, and we've got a name for this, it's called ratcheting DNA. Now, so DNA is a ratcheted dodecahedron. So this is the key, I believe, to the future technologies, the five-pointed star in 3D. I decided to do a magic cube. So if you take a cube and I open it up in half, if this cube is one by one, when I open it up, the diagonal of the cube, by splitting the cube, the 1 becomes the 2, because that's the cellular memory. The diagonal there is called root 5. Because we know 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared, I know that the length of that diagonal is 1 squared plus 2 squared is root 5. And we need to know root 5, which has got to do with 5 fingers, the 5 petals of flowers. Root 5 allows us to discover the golden ratio, which is a formula called 1.618. It's called 1 plus the root of 5 divided by 2. So this high-level maths is all basically in the cube of space. So what's inside the cube is the octahedron. So that's called the jewel. So this fluorite crystal, natural crystal, fits snugly inside the cube. But it does more than that, because it's the right harmonics. This cube can bisect itself again and shapeshift and become the 12 around the 1. This is the 12 around the 1 that you were. And when you give this to kids, I was in Perth, I do a lot of homeschooling. I'd have like 40 kids with 40 parents for 10 days. And I only had this before I made copies of it. So I've got these on the tables. If you know any children, they will love this. But I only had one copy about 3 years ago. And this one won't break, it's unbreakable, right? The kids for 5 days were screaming and fighting and punching each other, and the mothers and fathers had to completely cue every child for 5 minutes. They timed them 5 minutes all day. They were obsessed, and I thought, oh my God, the kids are fighting over this. It's just a magnetic folding, it's a magnet, right? It's just a toy. But then I realized, why are the kids fighting over this all 5 days in a row? So I said, I'm going to make a couple of thousand of them. So I put all this geometry. So I quickly got to China. But the problem with this, when you buy it, that they'll last with adults for a year or two, but the kids, they're going to try and rip it apart and it'll break. So the warning is, if you get it, don't share it with children. Just keep it for yourself. So that's magic diamond. I call it magic diamond. There it is again, the 12 radials. It's the most fractal shape I know, and it's not even pentagon. This is the mystery. It's not even golden ratio. What lives inside of this? If Magic Spider went in and connected all the 14 faces, is garnet crystal. But garnet crystal is in the raw, rough. It's not perfect. So sacred geometry shows the ideal, right? But nature is always a little bit off. That's the polarity between the heavenly and the earthly. And the shadow of this is the VW symbol. So maybe when Hitler claimed the VW, he was connecting to the power that's inherently hidden inside the cube octahedron. So the cube is when I said the flower of life is the mother of all creation, well, this flower of life net is going to create everything we know inside of it. So we've pulled out the cube, and there's a cube within the cube, and here where I'm animating the possibility of how would a cube within the cube function as an organism or a system of energy. We don't know. So this is an artist's GIF. I call it a GIF, but I'll do it in bigger versions. So this is a fascinating animation. It's sort of suggesting that we need to connect the big picture with the small picture and turn ourselves inside out to access all realms. It's very rich. I don't even know what that means or what it evokes for you, but it's how geometry works. Because that's why the next level of mathematics in the curriculum has to be high visual content. If we can teach the next generation of children all this sacred geometry through animations and pictures and beautiful colours and sounds. They're going to they already have the knowledge, we just don't want them to lose it. So that's why I'm working with 5-year-olds. I believe they already got the knowledge. Somewhere along the line they got shut down. That's all it is. So this is what I call, I've got a name for it, it's called psychoactive, whatever that means. Psycho is the mind. When you look at it, it activates our memory. All this beautiful geometry collapsed and we became like a big blob of jelly. So that's represented by 512 cells here. And we became what's called a torus. A torus means ring. The Latin word for a ring is torus. We have a torus over our eyes. On the iris is the torus that funnels the light in. We have a torus in an apple. The earth is a torus, and I even believe we're a torus because we had a hole here and we can breathe into the perineum. So we have 2 openings. So here's a torus. So the funny thing is, when you evolved into this torus, there was half of you had the function to implode. So this became your mouth. So you became this thing that had 2 holes. One was like sucking energy in, but if you keep sucking energy in, where's it going to go? So this became your bum. So that's sacred geometry. At 512 cells, you became a mouth and an anus. That's it. Thank you very much. No. There's all these philosophies and they're all beautiful. But I think for us Westerners, we have busy lives, so if we can't meditate for an hour a day, if you can just 5 days, just for 5 minutes, just do a 1 breath to the heart and out, you find yourself we're peaceful, ready for a day, start the day. So if this is 13, this is 8. We found a golden mean in 2 circles that are put very cleverly together. So this is very powerful. I know it might shut you down, but this could be a future circuit board or a code that we apply into our physical life somehow. And who's using? We have to give this a name. This is the 5 vesica. It's not the vesica Pisces. This is the golden ratio, the most powerful symbol. And who owns it? They don't. So these powerful corporations, they don't make this stuff up. That's why they don't teach it. That's why when I said 100 years ago, someone made a mandate to pull all this stuff out of the curriculum. Because we know that knowledge is power, we could say that. So they've got all the knowledge. So our job is to give the next generation their power back. That's our duty. The people that control our education have deliberately kept us disharmonic by telling us the wrong value of pi. It's a frequency, it's a vibration, and that's why we're all getting cancer, because the technology is wrong, the mathematics is distorted deliberately, and to correct it, so I believe that this is a vibrational correction code. So I'm doing a whole workshop on this. I've written 8 books. If you see all the green books over there, my last 2 books are just on the value of 3.144. And this is all based on the golden ratio, because if pi is not based on phi, then this cannot travel from infinitely large to infinitely small. That's my theory. So pi and phi have a relationship, and you won't learn this at school. And it's all based on the 3, 4, 5 triangle to prove, to get, if this is 1, and we know that this is 1, to get a diagonal that is exactly 1.618, the base has to be 1.272, the root of phi, golden root. So 1 root phi in phi is called the Kepler triangle. And what they did was, Kepler should have been the master of astrophysics, but they deleted all his work and put Newton up on the pedestal. So we're stuck in all this dysfunctional Newtonian physics that's not taking us anywhere. It's just keeping us ensnared in this illusion of distortion and false knowledge. The true knowledge is called the Kepler triangle. And who wrote about it? Pythagoras and Plato. Plato wrote whole books about this, and it's all gone. It's all gone. So only a few people know this. So I'm doing all this exotic stuff that the frequency 3.144 is coming through. It hasn't come. So if you look here, the symbolism of the front cover means here's this archer. It's some sort of Art Deco statue. So I took this Art Deco beautiful warrior woman, man, or whatever it is, standing on a dodeca. It's pulled back. The numbers haven't been released yet, so you can see there's 3.144. So symbolically, it's coming. It may not come because there's forces we're fighting. Let's call it good versus evil, but I believe this is the truth. And I'll take this to my grave, but that's going to be on my tombstone, 3.144. But every cell in my body says, this is the truth, and it has to be revealed. When I first saw this, I was, it's like a jaw-dropping revelation. So I stay up to 2 o'clock every night studying equations and mathematics, and once every year, a gem, we call it a mathematical plum, appears. So these are mathematical gems of the highest order. 3 circles, 3 rings, 3 chopsticks defines the fabric of creation. So I can't make it any more simpler than that. There's other people copying. There's so many mathematicians now, they've stolen all my work. A lot of my work's been taken, and there's 10 other people now saying pi is a lie and it's 3.144, and I've never been acknowledged. And it's not about ego, but there's so many big mathematicians that are all running with this now. So you're going to hear more about it. Everything you've just seen is covered in the art of number. I'm turning numbers, translating numbers into pictures and sacred symbols. That's got all the golden ratio in it. And there's a children's version of it here, which is half the size, but it's got the best information in it. Someone was asking if you wanted a copy of all these slides. This whole 230, it's 182 slides. They're all on a PDF ebook. I think it's $33 if you email me. Yeah, so thank you for your time and for sharing with me.